earlier in the show, we had Al Michaels and Joe Buck. And last night I had those two gentlemen on with our final guest of the day to take us into the weekend. None other than my friend from CBS Sports and the voice of the NFL on CBS, Jim Nantz. Hello again, Jim.
Hello, friend. It's good to be back with you. That was fun last night. A little hijinks. Some good laughs all the way around.
Well, you know, Jim, I don't need to tell you, being the veteran sportscaster and legendary voice that you are, you know how sometimes when you're hooked up via satellite or Zoom or whatever's going on in this day and age with 2 or 3 or 4 people, sometimes you just don't know how the crosstalk is going to go. And then somebody just decides to just lob in a verbal jab in the middle of the crosstalk. And then you figure out how the crosstalk is actually working. That's what happened last night with you.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go there, but you picked me up. We were coming right off of Joe, and he was excited about the fact that, in your words, that
Yes.
they're going to have Tom Brady early and often.
Yes.
And did I happen to notice that when I first saw our schedule, that the Brady versus Mahomes game,
Yes.
Kansas City at Tampa, belonged to CBS? Did that jump off the page? And it just struck me that I might as well have some fun with it while we're here. We're all friends anyway. So I said, yeah, Joe, you do have Tom early and often, but you didn't get the game that you really wanted, the one against Mahomes. We've got it. Sorry.
I know.
Something like that.
No, that's exactly what happened.
But I think he was a little bit he was a great sport about it, but a little shocked. And then I just thought I'll double down on this and have some be a little playful with our great friend, Mr. Michaels, and talk about what is the most watched broadcast window of the NFL.
I forgot about that one.
And that I understand has gotten some legs as people try to defend this. But I guess you know, my point was they are the number 1 rated show in prime time, NBC Sunday Night Football, and they should be very proud of that. That's true. That's undeniable. However, as I pointed out last night, Joe and I would take you to the mat to point out that the most watched or the highest rated, because somebody might try to say, well, what's the difference between the most watched? All right, the most watched but also the highest rated broadcast window is that double header window that CBS and Fox alternate with during the course of the season.
Well, as everybody pointed out, that it raises all football and broadcasting boats.
Yeah.
And as we talked about today, Al and I and Joe and I, we all agree that it was the first flex of the season. Last night, you had the first flex of the football season.
I hate I missed them. I'm going to go back and as you guys just said, we can find all of this and pull up the links. I want to hear what they did have some comments about it, huh?
No, we had fun with it. And, you know, because, again, it was a fun conversation, just seeing all of us together, you know, talking football. And so many people need it. You know, obviously we can discuss about when it might happen or if it happens, et cetera, and so forth. But just to get this, I know you liken it to a Christmas morning when you get the NFL schedule in your hands. And you have every right to be talking about your excitement in that manner. And I'll just give you the floor on what else other than that Mahomes Brady game that might have leapt off the page at you, Jim.
Well, I should just expand your thought about Christmas morning for me.
Sure.
It's one of my favorite. I would say it's in my top 5 sporting events of the year. Now, somebody would say, well, that's not a sporting event. Well, it is for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I get to find out where I'm going to be going for 4 consecutive months. And I'd love to already start to kind of play these games out mentally, thinking about where the teams might be and what that atmosphere might look like. So when the schedule comes down, and it's been presented to me, actually Rose from your show forwarded it to me, and I just had the CBS schedule.
Yep.
When we were on last night, I still had not had a full grasp of what the overall NFL schedule looks like. But I studied it. I grabbed it, and I excused myself from a little family gathering, and, of course, I just couldn't wait another minute. So I came into my home office, locked the door, put all of the things aside, and looked up on my computer screen and started going through it very meticulously, 1 week at a time. And I just love the reveal. And you guys did a great job, by the way. You have through the years on that show. So I know there are some geeks out there like me who get into the NFL schedule and trying to figure out, you know, what's the main game that day and how all the chips fall. For us at CBS, it was I think it was a very happy day. It was. I think when you're a Sunday afternoon package, so this would be I'd be lumping us together here with Fox. You start out by trying to figure out the weight of your doubleheader weeks. We get 8, they get 8 doubleheaders, and we both have a doubleheader on week 17. So it's the 8 that you get handed to you by Howard Katz and company in the NFL that you really want to examine first. That shows you the strength of your regular season schedule.
Yes.
Well, our 8 would definitely match up on paper better than I think anything we've ever had before. To have Kansas City and Tampa, you pointed that out last
yes.
night. So you got Mahomes against Brady, and as I pointed out, we've watched that movie, and it's always been great. And we'll have the sequel with, of course, Tom in a Tampa uniform. But we also have Mahomes against Breeze. So we got 2 Kansas City dynamite doubleheader road games. We also have Kansas City at home against New England early in the year. New England, Kansas City is a sexy matchup now. We know number 12 is missing, but there's been enough, again, recent history with those franchises playing for an AFC championship 2 years ago and a great game at Foxborough this past December and on and on and on. That will be, particularly early in the season, that will be of great interest. And then you get these cross flexes that I know that's lost on some people, but this got kicked in about 5 years ago where the NFL took games out of Fox's allotment, if you will,
yes.
and gave them to CBS. And they did the same thing from our package over to Fox and some AFC games. This to present the biggest audience you can on some major matchups. So they didn't get lost in a glut of Sunday afternoon games. So short of it is, we have Philadelphia, Green Bay, at Lambeau.
That's a great one.
It's not normally our game, as you know, Rich.
No, it's in December. That's the first Sunday in December, man.
Bingo. And then we got an NFC East game with the Giants at Dallas Week 5. That's huge for us. A lot of people are going to build the perception of what a matchup might be based off of last year's records. I think the Giants are going to be pretty good. I really do. I think that they're going to really surprise some people. I think they're going to be a real force.
There's another one here too, Jim. Here's another one that leaps out at me too, and the Niners at the Patriots. We were just talking about it in the break here, Jim, because that's after a bye week. It's early on in the season. If Stidham is struggling, and it sure sounds like this is going to be Stidham's gig, Jim. Here comes Jimmy G strolling into the house. I mean, you want to talk about, and obviously it makes no sense to sit here and say, well, they made the wrong move because Brady is Brady, and they won more times, plural, after making the decision to stick with him as opposed to Jimmy G. But that is, you want to talk about a storyline. I mean, Week 7, the defending NFC champion Niners coming into the Patriots' house. Certainly if New England's struggling with Stidham, that is going to be significant, to say the least.
The Jimmy G return, again, that's one of those games that when you looked at all of the opponent's schedules before the NFL matched them up and sent them out to their networks and distributed the games,
right?
I never would have thought in a million years that would be our game. That wouldn't be that would have been a Fox game. You travel with your conference. So with it being an NFC team, San Francisco on the road, that would not normally be our game. So that was a nice gift. And like I said, it's early enough in the season. It's interesting to look at the Patriots' start to the season. Going to be at home against Miami Week 1. Then they got a Sunday night game at Seattle. Come back home against the Raiders. And then they play at Kansas City. So two winnable home games. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win them both. They might lose them both. They lost to Miami Week 17 this year. But 2 very difficult road games to win. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, at Seattle, at Kansas City.
Yeah.
So, you're coming out of it. Again, they could win them. They could lose them both. But it's a start to the season with a new leader under center. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. And then, like I say, you got Jimmy G coming in on Week 7. I knew all along whether Tom was going to stay with New England or not. As soon as we finish Week 17, you see the opponents' matchups for the following year. And I looked at what New England had, and I thought, man, that is the best set of opponents that I've ever seen any one team have. That's a marquee team. I knew they had games at the Chargers and at the Rams, and I knew they were going to play again Baltimore, Kansas City, and Houston as part of the first place schedule. But the way all the crossovers worked this year with the NFC, so that meant again Seattle, That meant a much improved Arizona team. It meant San Francisco at home. You just didn't know how they were going to be dispersed. But I knew going in that New England was going to have, like, virtually every game is a great-looking matchup. This was before Tom had made the decision to go down to Tampa Bay. So, we're going to still see them a lot. A lot of people thought, hey, you and Tony might not be seeing the Patriots with the frequency that you used to. But we got to see how this plays out. Their opponents this year, it's a really marquee schedule for New England.
Yeah, they've got the most difficult schedule. Obviously, that's maybe a mirage of a statistic because, from year to year, things change. I mean, the 49ers are a perfect example of that. At this point last year, they were coming off of drafting second overall. Nobody was really even seeing them in the Super Bowl, but that's exactly what happened. Jim Nantz, a few minutes left with you, Jim. And
I don't like that stat. We lean on it just as much as
we
you
do, right?
But the opponent's difficult, the schedule difficulty. Because I'll give you an example. You guys had it up last night on the screen. So you had Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland were three of the top four with the easiest schedule. And you know why that is? When you do the opponent's schedule, now they had to factor in Cincinnati
twice
at 2-14, not once,
right,
but twice.
Right.
So when you're factoring in the win percentage of your opponent, you're already at 4-28 when you do the math, just because of your matchups that include the Bengals. And that's not a slam at the Bengals, but I'm just trying to show how these numbers. I don't think Baltimore's schedule is easy at all. Cleveland's going to be better. We know Pittsburgh, with Ben healthy, stays healthy, they're going to be better. And then Baltimore has that first place schedule of New England and Kansas City and Houston, on top of a game against Philadelphia and the rest of the NFC East. Now, what's easy about that? It just got skewed because of the Cincinnati double record went into the equation. Yeah,
and the one thing we talked about with Joe last hour, Jim, and I've got about 3 minutes left before the show ends here, that he was kind of it landed on him that when you said last night that you called 100, you've called at least 100 Brady games, and he's probably only called about 10, and most of them were Super Bowls that Fox has had, and
right.
that now he's going to be able to call more Brady games. I guess you're going to have Mahomes games, right? And the last two MVPs are residing there, and I know you touched upon this last night, that the youth movement at the quarterback spot is what CBS is going to be bringing to the fore over the next couple of years.
Well, the AFC is the cool conference now. You got with Patrick and Lamar, and now I don't want to shortchange Deshaun, but Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, the kids that are coming in to get 3 of the first draft picks, 6 draft picks.
Yep.
With Joe and Tua and Justin Herbert. It's an exciting time for this conference. Your conference really, and we're the AFC network, your conference is as good as the quality and the star power of your quarterbacks. Now, that's not to say the NFC doesn't have it. They got it. They got Brady and Breeze. They got Russell Wilson. And they got some others. We got the young guys, though, that are winning the awards. And one guy that just won the Super Bowl is part of that, and Patrick Mahomes. So I'm feeling really good about where the AFC is going and what that means as far as matchups. And you're right. We're probably going to be seeing, if Kansas City keeps doing what it's been doing, we're going to be seeing Patrick Mahomes with the frequency that we did Tom Brady. But that means that, Lamar Jackson and Baltimore aren't winning any Super Bowls in here? So, those guys, those two, and some of these others I rattled off on the list, they get things going. That's going to be a heavy part of what our season is going to be for years to come.
Hey, Jim, I appreciate the call today and last night. So last night, just I guess to bring this all full circle, should the NFL and Howard Katz and the commissioner take your statement about the Mahomes at Brady game as the official CBS preemptory that is not to be flexed? Is that the official?
Well, first off, we'll protect the game, so
right.
There's no chance that we'll lose the game. As you know how that works. We are
but should that be
as of October the 1st? We get to protect one game every week. So,
right.
Barring any injuries, gosh forbid, no, that's not one we're letting go of. But that was so much fun, Rich. Thanks for putting together, because I just love those guys, and And Al is a friend / mentor, I think, to both of us. And I've gotten to know Joe so much better in recent years. We've had a lot of fun. And for it to come together last night and share some laughs, it was gold. And I just appreciate you putting us all together. We got to do that next year during the reveal show.
I'd love it. I'd love it. And again, Jim, I just really appreciate your friendship and you calling into the show as often as you do and making yourself available. And I'm appreciative, and I appreciate it. We'll chat again down the line.
Appreciate you, my friend, anytime. You know that, okay?
Right back
Have
at
a great
you.
weekend.
You too.
We'll talk soon.
You bet. That's Jim Nantz taking us into the weekend. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.